finding myself very, very self-critical today. Today's kind of a funny day because we're in August, but there's a lot of leaves on the ground and the weather is definitely not giving summer. But for me, one of the biggest signifiers of autumn is the blackberry. And they are out all around me. As you can see, I'm surrounded by a mega hedge of blackberries. And whilst I know what blackberries are, I figured since blackberries are such a loved classic, there must be a lot of myths and tales and folklore that go with them. So why not join me today to draw some blackberries and find out a little bit more about their history, their heritage, and where the love of blackberries came from, maybe. It's also so exciting that you're here and that the channel is starting to grow a little bit. Thank you so much for that, and make sure that you have subscribed and that you like the video if you like it, and share it with your friends. I think there are more and more people who I come across who like learning about plants, and I hope that the channel can be a bit grounding in this day and age where we're so digital. It's just really nice to touch base with nature and learn a fact or two. So with that in mind, let's get cracking. So the sun has come out. It's no longer feeling autumny. I'm halfway through the drawing and I'm finding myself very, very self-critical today. And instead of just holding that inside me, I thought, you know, probably good to share that whilst I draw a lot and like drawing and I'm fairly confident drawing, I also do sometimes become way too self-critical. I don't know if you know the book called The Artist's Way. It's an amazing kind of like course that you can do just following the book, and in it the author writes, amongst many other wise things, that one of the best things you can do when you're being creative is to do the work, don't judge the work. And ever since I read that, probably about 5 years ago now, I really try and hold on to that, and whenever I'm doing anything creative, I try my hardest to just finish the thing before judging it. And right now I found myself really, really drawn to just abandoning the project today and not finishing the drawing. And then I was like, gosh, no, you've got to do the work, don't judge the work. Who knows what it can become when I've painted it? Why waste this perfectly fine drawing? To that kind of mentality. I'm feeling quite like heavy and lethargic and just a bit uncomfortable in my body, and just all these things, they weigh on the mind, and even just doing a simple drawing or filming today is a lot harder than most days. So I just kind of felt like sharing that, and I better crack on and do the painting. Hope that was in focus. Well, I have to say that in my foggy brain, not only did I just record that bit out of focus, but I've also forgotten my water, which means I can't paint. But home isn't far, so I'm going to run home, grab some water, paint them and get it done. And I'm going to have such an achievement today if I've painted that, so yeah.
I'm sure have a lot more going for them than just tasting delicious on an autumnal walk. And I'm hoping that in amongst all these books we can find something interesting that we maybe didn't know before about blackberries and brambles. So let's start looking. Okay, so the first book I want to show you is this one. The book is called The Englishman's Flora by Geoffrey Grigson. In here he writes, bramble or blackberry. The Latin is Rubus frutitius. Bramble is generally used in England, Scotland and Ireland, though the forms vary according to the dialect, he says. Blackberry seeds have been found in the stomach of a human being, probably Neolithic, confirming what one would safely guess, that blackberries were eaten many thousands of years ago, as they are today. Bramble has given more than fruit for casual eating, and jam and jelly and blackberry tart. It was the blessed bramble in the Highlands, the roots yielding an orange dye. The leaves were placed on burns and swellings, a remedy familiar to the 16th century herbalists. Highlanders twined a bramble with ivy and rowan to ward off witches and evil spirits. Diseases could be cured by passing the sufferer beneath an archway of bramble rooted at either end. Graves, too, in English churchyards were neatly tucked round with plaiting of either brambles or osiers, no doubt to keep the dead from waking. Bramble thorns pluck dags of wool out of sheep as they go by, for which cottage wives were grateful in days of spinning. That's exactly the kind of folklore I was hoping for, so I found this really lovely book called The Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady. Funnily enough, I gave this book to a friend a few years ago, and I was really reluctant to give it because I loved it so much, so I'm really pleased to have found it here. She has these beautiful illustrations, and she has one for the blackberry. She has put blackberry as October, and obviously it's August now, and I was wondering if perhaps the blackberries have come early this year, and whether that's something to do with climate change, or maybe it's just an early year, or maybe they will just continue to fruit. There isn't anything particularly written about the blackberry in her diary, but I just thought it was a beautiful illustration, so I wanted to share that with you. I've also found a nice bit on brambles in the Flowers of the Field, which is another classic. So rubus is the Latin for bramble, but it appears that you have a lot of different types. Here it writes about the common bramble. It's got a rootstock not sending out suckers, stem arched, angular, prickly, often rooting at the extremities, which arch down and touch the ground, in this way producing fresh plants. Leaves of 3 to 5 leaflets. Most species flower from July to August and ripen their fruit in September and October. Okay, well that's good to know. We're a bit early with the fruit. I think for me the biggest takeaway from all that learning is just the idea that humans have been eating blackberries for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years, and that something we find pleasure in now was also something that humans found pleasure in all those years ago, and it's a really nice connection to our past and our history. I hope you enjoyed this week's video, and I look forward to catching up with you